Trump supporters, fighting the deep state by siding with every intelligence agency, weapons contractor, mainstream media outlet, and professional war whore in America.
And that's why it's like I'm really close to going to absolute political war with anybody who claims to be a Trump supporter, and that's where we're heading, and it's gonna be ugly. That's the end of it. Shout out to Caitlin Johnstone. That was an excellent piece as usual.
Middle MAGA.
A while back on the channel, Caitlin Johnstone and I had a back and forth. I think it was respectful. And another situation where we had a disagreement on. I don't go and have disagreements with people I don't respect, and this is no exception. And she didn't block me. We had quite a bit of back and forth. I invited her on the show if she wanted to. She was like, "No, I'm good," and not in a disrespectful way. Maybe a little bit. She had a little bit of disrespect, but I don't have any problems with her. And she blocks people. She would have easily blocked me. I don't know why she didn't. I think she understood I wasn't trying to have beef with her. I like her. And here's an article, and I'm going to have to admit the beef that we had was over China. I'm not talking about a damn China at all. We are not in the China space. I am not in my China arc right now. I don't want to hear a damn thing about China. I do not want to hear anything about China right now. We got much bigger problems. And she was right. I think that from that standpoint, I think some of the nuts and bolts of arguing China, and I'm not taking anything back that I said, factually about China. It's very similar. A while back in the channel, it was Force the Vote. And I went over the numbers and I was factually right and I was battling with people on the left. That's why this is called Middle MAGA. I talk about Trump, DeSantis, whatever. Now we're on the populist left right now with Caitlin Johnstone. But back then in the channel, I was real deep in the populist left. I was an AOC supporter at the time, even when the channel started in 2020. And so there was a big Jimmy Dore force the vote argument. The discussion was force the vote. So I told everyone it is possible, and we're seeing it now. It's possible that if you force the vote, at the time, Kevin McCarthy could have became speaker. And I said, and I think I was against it because of that. So I was factually right, but then I realized, wait a second. If you are there to enact change, then that's a risk you have to take and navigate it. And then fast forward, Matt Gaetz and the courageous 6-7 that turned into more, they challenged the speaker, got great concessions for it. One of the best moments in the history of our country from MAGA in challenging Kevin McCarthy, then ousting him. Even though Mike Johnson isn't working out, that it was still the right thing to do. But I figured out force the vote obviously Jimmy Dore was obviously right. And that's the same thing here. I'm not changing anything factually I said about China. But what I think Caitlin Johnstone was trying to get me to learn, and remember, I went on with Craig Pasta. If I can remember when I edit these, I'll put a link up here so you can see if you want to go back. We had a whole discussion on China. You could say a debate. It wasn't really a debate. I don't really get into debate like that, but we had a good discussion. Craig Pasta, thank you to him. I've been on the show a couple times. What a great dude. And he was trying to tell me, okay, I hear where you're coming from on China, but that's not the issue. And I finally get it. I was starting to get it with Craig Pasta. And shout out to Caitlin Johnstone. I think she is excellent. I am a huge fan and support of hers. She was right. Her big picture take was absolutely right. She was basically trying to tell me, bruh, China ain't the problem. We got other problems. And here's an article that basically ties it up.
I oppose Israel's atrocities in Gaza because I'm not a psychopath. Notes from the edge of the narrative matrix. I don't
This is Caitlin Johnstone, and I believe her husband does the reading.
oppose the butchery in Gaza because I love Hamas, or hate Jews, or love Islam, or hate America. I don't oppose the butchery in Gaza because I'm a lefty, or a commie, or an anarchist, or an anti-imperialist. I oppose the butchery in Gaza because I'm not a fucking psychopath. Opposing Israel's butchery in Gaza is so obvious, so common sense, such a bare minimum, fundamental level, being human 101 position.
What are we arguing about? Are we really arguing, or are we really some people know it's morally wrong, so what they say is, I'm not going to discuss the morality of it. Is that where we really are? Obviously, when war happens, immoral things happen. I understand that. All I'm saying is that it's immoral. So does that mean you agree? Why are we still arguing this? I don't care who does it. I don't want to hear about, well, this other country, even America. When we unlive innocence, that is bad. I don't support it, and it is evil.
That if it isn't immediately self evident to you after learning the basic facts, your problem is much, much deeper than whatever ideology or bias or prejudice you might happen to have. There's something wrong with you as a person. If you support Israel's butchery in Gaza, you've got much bigger problems than merely not having the correct ist or ism belief system.
And I get it. Some people on the channel will say, well, where was their position? I think Caitlin Johnstone is solid on the sunflower country as well. Well, we're saying Israel on this, so this video is whatever. On Ukraine, she's solid. But some of these people, maybe college students and other these NPC left that are anti-Israel, some of them are pro-Ukraine. I understand that they might be hypocritical, but if you're going to analyze their Israel position is what it is. Ilhan Omar, for example, Ilhan Omar, AOC, they support money to Ukraine, but anti-Israel. Okay. On this topic, they're right, but yeah, of course, they're hypocrites. But that doesn't change that they're right on this topic.
You're just fucked up inside. Your conditioning has made you a generally shitty human being.
Preach.
You have deep and immensely consequential flaws in your character, and you won't mature as a person until you heal and transcend them. Opposing Israel's atrocities in Gaza doesn't make you a good person. It just makes you a normal person. And supporting Israel's atrocities in Gaza makes you a bad person. Nobody gets any points for opposing an active genocide. That's just the basic, bare minimum requirement for a normal human being with a functioning empathy center in their brain. If you can't meet that basic, bare minimum standard, you deserve to be viewed with suspicion and disdain, and anyone in your personal life who cares about truth, morality, and humanity should seriously reassess their relationship with you. One reason the empire is losing young people is because the imperial status quo has given them no investment in it. They'll never own property. They can't support a family or retire. They've been given no reason not to want to rock the political boat.
Excellent. This is the same thing. Remember Scott Galloway had that epic rant on MSNBC? That's exactly what he was talking about with that epic rant.
So they're rocking it. The only vested interest young people have left is an interest in breathable air and a livable planet, and the possibility of a future that isn't intolerably dystopian. All of which are diametrically opposed to the interests and trajectory of the status quo politics of the Western Empire. So they're going for it. They're beginning to see that there's no reason for them not to plunge headlong into a push for real change.
That's a great, all the stars have aligned, and you created this monster. Here's Scott Galloway. I'm going to do a side mission on this one. I just love this rant.
So in America, we've decided to try and create a super class of billionaires. And then if they win the gold medal, we're going to give them the silver and the bronze. Two biggest tax deductions, capital gains and mortgage interest. Who owns homes and stocks? People my age. Who doesn't know? Who rents and makes their money from current income? Young people. So we've decided that the wealthiest people in the world should get exceptionally more wealthy. Minimum wage stuck at $9.25. Stock market is screamed up. The average 70-year-old is 72% wealthier than they were 40 years ago. The average person under the age of 40 is 24% less wealthy. We are purposely transferring more wealth from the poor and middle class to the upper class to the super rich, and from young to old. And
well, so I want to see what his position was during the pandemic, and if he's talked about that in his book or not. I'll go and get that book. He sold me on the book with this appearance on MSNBC outside of the Israel stuff and the J team discussion. Outside of that, he was on fire. And I want to hear where he was, because the pandemic was the greatest transfer of wealth from young or from the middle class to upper class. And remember, I'm playing this to tie it into basically Caitlin Johnstone is saying the youth have nothing to lose right now. So you set up the environment, I'm going to say this, to make them, to foster them as activists, to tell them to do when to do the right thing, when it's the right thing to do something, even if it was misguided on whatever identity politics, from the rainbow people to the black imams, whatever it was, you told them if that's the right thing to do, stand up and do it. So they said, okay, you told us that. And then on top of that, we say, we got nothing to lose. The job market is rough. Companies laying off, student loan debt, all of the issues that he's talking about here give you nothing to lose.
Say in the book, which is true and alarming, but let's say a 30-year-old American in America right now is doing no better than his or her parents, then that's a new thing in American history that you would think over time, we want to do better than the next generation, than the last generation. It's not happening anymore.
I think it all ties into what we're talking about on campus.
So this graph here shows year of child's birth and percent of earning more than their parents. And what you're seeing is it's just going down and down and down and down.
For the first time in our nation's history, a 30-year-old man or woman isn't doing as well as his or her parents were at 30. That is the social compact breaking down. People aged 30 to 34, 60% of them in 1990 had one child. Now it's 27%. People are opting out of America. They're not optimistic about it. They're not having kids.
So why do you think they're yelling "Unlive to America" or not bothered by it? I'm not bothered by it anymore right now either. Why? Because I think we have to aim at the people who created the environment to have this happen. Created the environment that if we criticize Israel, now we're worried about our jobs. We're worried about, to hell, that's un-American. You're the real un-Americans, not these kids on the campus protesting. I laugh at that. They're more American, even if they're there pro-Hamas or pro-Unlive to America. They're more American than the people we have in D.C. that try to crush the freedoms, laugh at this stuff, laugh at the protesters, laugh at me, created this environment for transfers of wealth. 2024 is lit, man. We coming for y'all. Peacefully, but we coming, man. So it is an optimistic thing, because that's why they're trying to do these bills, and the seat's getting hot.
Young people aren't having sex. They're not meeting. They're not mating.
They're not having sex, so they ain't got nothing better to do than pitch a tent. Maybe some of them are pitching a tent and doing something out there. That would be great. Maybe they're knocking boots out there while they're protesting. I mean, honestly, that could be something that kind of ignites that fire in them. But they ain't doing what they used to do on college campuses, so they might as well go protest for Palestine.
Pool of emotionally and economically viable men shrinks every day, which lessens household formation. So we have a real issue. Young people are enraged. So it turns every cut, every movement into an opportunistic infection, because quite frankly, they are just pissed off. They look up, they see wealth, exceptional wealth across.
Yeah. And you're just flaunting it in their face. The defense contractors, Israel, Ukraine, Zelensky. The CIA allegedly they had to roll through to Zelensky and say, man, you skimming too much off the top, bro. We can't even hide this. Rand Paul wanted to have a special inspector kind of just manage the funds and track where the funds is going. Zelensky and them were like, hell no, bro. We can't have that. The Senate didn't even pick that up. They just sending their money over. You don't think the kids see that? We have it. We have the internet. I mean, even if you don't tell us, MSNBC, we know. A lot of them know. At least the ones that are really riling everybody up, they all know that. So I got nothing to lose. You're not even giving me my share of the pie. So why would I not? And then on top of that, Israel doesn't lobby for anything they care about. For the life of me, I don't understand why Israel wouldn't lobby for things that I care about, and then maybe I'm not even taking a moral stance with, as long as I'm not helping fund it, I'm fine with them having to do whatever they have to do over there. But if they lobby on behalf of the First Amendment, Second Amendment, or things that I care about, then I'm not going to be anti the Israeli government.
My generation and people in certain industries, and they are really struggling. Their purchasing power is going down, and the incumbents create artificial scarcity on campus. We take pride in rejecting 90% of our applicants, so the incumbents who already have a degree see the degree go up in value. We get very concerned with housing and traffic once we own a housing. Housing permits are sequestered from young people. Housing prices have gone from $290 to $420 in the last 4 years. So a young person, a house, stocks that I don't own skyrocket in value. Let's have COVID relief and flush the markets and take assets way up because of 1 million people dying.
So he did talk about I forgot, he talked about the pandemic relief there. So I want to know what his stance was at the time, and if it was consistent, then he's fine. If not, I want to hear what his transition was, because we saw Chris Cuomo make a transition from hawking the pandemic product. He was hawking the product for the campaign, the pandemic, on CNN. And then now is he on Newsmax? He's on a new network now. And now he's talking about injuries. And I'm like, that's great. I absolutely love that. My only question is, how did you get there? Help me understand your progression, bruh.
The 65th Grammy Awards is sponsored by Pfizer.
Be bad, it would be tragic if I got less wealthy, and we're doing it on their credit card. Young people have every reason to be enraged, and every issue they see, they look up, they get angry, and they see someone doing better than them, and then every day it is speedballed in their face that they are failing, that they are not doing as well as everyone around them. We have lost the script. Our kids are more anxious and more depressed and more obese and more addicted. And we have made a purposeful decision to let this happen by ensuring the people around this table stay wealthy at the cost of young people.
Middle MAGA.
Wow. That's rant of the year, man. That's rant of the year. He was spitting fire there, man. That was what an unbelievable rant. Let's pick up the article from Caitlin Johnstone again.
Can't meet that basic, bare minimum standard. You deserve to be viewed with suspicion and disdain, and anyone in your personal life.
So they're keeping that involved. So let's go back to where Caitlin Johnstone was talking about the kids. So Caitlin Johnstone was picking it right back up where it was before, talking about the youth
Atrocities in Gaza.
and they have nothing to lose, basically, saying that the only vested interest young people have
left is an interest in breathable air and a livable planet, and the possibility of a future that isn't intolerably dystopian. All of which are diametrically opposed to the interests and trajectory of the status quo politics of the Western Empire. So they're going for it. They're beginning to see that there's no reason for them not to plunge headlong into a push for real change, in direct opposition to the mainstream politics of our time. Like Bob Dylan said, when you got nothing to lose. One of the many things that's beautiful about this particular protest movement is that these young people aren't protesting a war that they could get drafted in or could harm their personal interests in any way. They're opposing some.
I don't agree with that. I mean, you could get drafted here. I mean, we got Iran attacking Israel directly. I mean, anytime that happens, you could get drafted in a heartbeat. So I'm not sure where Caitlin got that from. We're not far away at all. And everything that's happening, even Ukraine, is all related to Israel as well. You know, you got Iran's friends with Russia. Russia's cool with China, whatever that relationship is. But you see, you got the BRICS nations over there. You got the Federal Reserve nations and NATO, and it's all intertwined. So if you got Russia concerned about a theater massacre and you've got Iran hitting Israel, the draft is, I mean, what's the percent? I mean, we're at a coins flip. I mean, one stray bullet in the wrong timing, in the wrong direction could start it.
Something cruel and evil solely out of compassion. One Palestinian life is worth more than every college campus window in the world. If you're wondering why you're suddenly seeing the word radicalizing a lot in mainstream politics and media, it's because that's the big scary boogeyman the empire plans on using to justify stomping out the burgeoning anti-war movement it created with its atrocities in Gaza. Israeli police raided Al Jazeera's office after the Israeli cabinet voted to shut down the broadcasts of the Qatari media outlet on Sunday. The West is protecting freedom and democracy by stomping out its own freedom and democracy to assist the genocidal atrocities of a nation that is also stomping out freedom and democracy.
I don't know if she's going to bring it up here. I don't think she's going to get that detailed, but we just heard Israel cleared out the offices of Al Jazeera Network, the news agency, and out of Jerusalem, I believe, is where they were at. And then in Ukraine, they stomped out the Christians over there. They stomped out the media that's against them. These are the democracies that we're trying to save.
Trump supporters are such foam-brained bootlickers that they're now united in shitting on protests against a genocidal mass atrocity that's being pushed by neocons, the Biden administration, and every other warmongering establishment swamp monster they claim to oppose.
Damn, that hurts. I'm going to bring that back again. If you're a Trump supporter, what would you call me, a Trump supporter? I don't even know where I'm at with Trump. I'm not voting for him, but I'm not against him. I don't know what I honestly don't know how you would describe me. I'm a populist. I don't know. But this hurts. This really hurts. And if you are a Trump supporter, this really hurts to be true. And you need to take a mirror and look in the effing mirror right now.
Of a nation that is also stomping out freedom and democracy. Trump supporters are such foam-brained bootlickers that they're now united in shitting on protests against a genocidal mass atrocity that's being pushed by neocons, the Biden administration, and every other warmongering establishment swamp monster they claim to oppose.
I need you to listen. If you're a Trump supporter, I don't think you heard this part. One more once.
Trump supporters are such foam-brained bootlickers that they're now united in shitting on protests against a genocidal mass atrocity that's being pushed by neocons, the Biden administration, and every other warmongering establishment swamp monster they claim to oppose.
What is going on, yo?
Trump supporters, fighting the deep state by siding with every intelligence agency, weapons contractor, mainstream media outlet, and professional war whore in America.
And that's why it's like I'm really close to going to absolute political war with anybody who claims to be a Trump supporter, and that's where we're heading, and it's gonna be ugly. And this is philosophical with debating in words. I am a 100% peaceful person. There's nothing gets solved with kinetic and physical activities. I am only there as a matter of defense. Here, but we are going to have verbal problems. We are really close to having a full blown. That's what the Candace and Ben thing represents. And there's a lot. So Nick's back on X now, and this thing is going. This is a bubble that's going to pop real quickly for Trump supporters. I'm going. If you are supporting this nonsense, tell me which part of this is a lie. Which part of what Caitlin Johnstone wrote right here is a lie.
Trump supporters are such foam-brained bootlickers that they're now united in shitting on protests against a genocidal mass atrocity that's being pushed by neocons, the Biden administration, and every other warmongering establishment swamp monster they claim to oppose.
If you're going to counter me, I need you to be very specific on what is wrong.
Trump supporters, fighting the deep state by siding with every intelligence agency, weapons contractor, mainstream media outlet, and professional war whore in America. Republicans pretend to fiercely oppose Biden.
It's crazy. When Nikki Haley was coming up, everybody's like, no to Nikki Haley. They're supporting everything here in the Middle East that Nikki Haley would want.
But when it comes to issues that really matter, like the president encouraging violent police crackdowns against people protesting his actions, They're in furious agreement, even saying he didn't go far enough.
Mm.
They're on the same side.
That's the end of it. Shout out to Caitlin Johnstone. That was an excellent piece as usual.